Welcome to the Spark Accounting Solutions Show. I'm Jenny Q. I am joined by Julie Babcock Hyde, the CEO and founder of Spark Accounting Solutions. She's also a CPA, CFM, QuickBooks Pro advisor, Profit First professional, and I'm barely getting started. Hi, Julie. How are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I know we've got some interesting things to talk about with our must-know tax, COVID relief, and stimulus updates. And it's my understanding there's a level of frustration for almost everyone, but especially for people who are in accounting and doing taxes and supporting everyone through all the changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk about that a little bit today. This has been like an incredibly hard year for small business owners. Whether your business was doing well and you were like having people out because they're sick with COVID, or whether you were doing well and you had people out because their kids were out of school, or whether you were shut down and you were struggling financially, business owners have had a really challenging year as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we keep talking about COVID relief and stimulus packages and all these other things. But it has been an incredibly hard year for dealing with all of this because honestly, the rules keep changing, the goalposts keep changing. Um, I don't even know anymore. Like when I'm talking about things, like, was that 25% or is that 20%? Is that
Mm.
75% or 60%? Oh, it was 50% last year and 70% this year? Okay,
Mm.
okay. The rules are just changing constantly. And so I laughed as I was prepping for this conversation today. Like I grabbed notes from a course that I taught a month ago.
Mm.
And those rules are now not totally accurate because
Wow.
things changed again on March 11th. So I think it's really important. And I'm hearing this fatigue from people in my industry, but I'm also hearing the same level of fatigue from small business owners
Sure.
where we're talking with people and saying, hey, did you know you might qualify for this? Do you want to help look at this? And they're just like, no, I'm just tired. I don't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just make do with what I've got, which is
Mm.
good and bad because like these programs are there for people that need it. And there are some industries that have been hit harder than others that are still waiting for the relief packages specific for their industries to actually launch.
Wow.
And so I think, I think people are tired of this, but I just want to encourage everybody to like stick with this, know what's going on. These things are real money for your business. There's real tax impacts, there's real deadline changes, there's all these things happening. And the best thing you can do as a business owner is try to stay up to date. And the best way to do that is make sure that you've got a professional that's staying on top of this stuff or that you're following somebody that's regularly updating this stuff so that you know what's going on and like have conversations with your banker. Don't give up on this stuff if you still need help. Don't give up on your business if it needs help. There are still options out there. But just know that like the rules that existed yesterday might be different now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what applied to you a month ago, your friend might have gotten a different deal a week later.
Wow. Yeah, it is a lot of crazy. And it's been going on for a year. And we have so many different like types of fatigue, right? Like pandemic fatigue, Zoom fatigue, quarantine fatigue. Now I think we're heading into vaccination fatigue. Like it's just like so much fatigue. And then we have all these changes going on with things that were pretty reliable for all of our lives with tiny changes every year.
Yeah.
And now we're having major changes every month or so.
Yes. And you just don't feel like you can keep up on all of them
Right.
because the rules were here and then something happened and now they're here. And now they're here. And now they're here. And now they're here. And so it's been very hard for small business owners. It's been very hard for our industry. And I think people in our industry thought the last kind of busy season with taxes and year end and everything was bad. And I would say this year is even worse. I mean, we still like I said, like March 11th, we just had more tax law changes for last year. And there's still more that they're talking about. And so
And
yeah.
I really want to highlight. So the real like the real I'm not the one and only real frustration, but a real frustration of that is for businesses who did all of their planning, right, heading into it, all the rules that they use to plan and do their tax planning, they're changed. So it's just a hot mess.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's very true. And there's surprises that are coming up with a whole lot of things during this tax season. And there's still states that are trying to, match the feds. There's still things the feds are trying to change. And so I think, just knowing, continue to be patient, continue to not be in a hurry. And I think with that, like the first thing we're talking about is like deadline changes. So I'm almost tempted that we just hop into.
We just hop in. Before we do, I want to tell the viewers, whether you're watching live or watching the replay, feel free to leave a comment and we will either answer live or we'll circle back and answer in the comments. Now, if you have a question that's specific or you don't want to put it out in public, then just click the contact us button on our Facebook page and then that'll be a private direct line. So yep, Julie, let's just jump in.
Okay. The number one thing that I want that you must know right now is there have been date changes and there will probably continue to be date changes. So they just recently announced that the tax deadline has been extended, but please know that that's not for everything. That is just for your 1040. That is now due May 17th. Be careful. We're going to talk more about the state issues a little bit later, but be careful because just because the IRS extended to May 17th does not mean that your state did. So you need to really look at that. One of the things they did not extend was first quarter estimated tax payments. If you think you're going to owe taxes for 2021, your first quarter estimated payment is still due April 15th of 2021. So you want to make sure you make that payment. If you have a corporate return due on 4/15, that has not changed. If you had a partnership return or an S corp return due on 3/15, they did not change that. So if you have not filed yet, get your ducks together quickly and get filed, because you're already late on that. So the other things that have changed.
My head's hurting already.
Yes. So on 12/27, the last tax benefit stimulus package that was signed into law of last year, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act sick leave was extended optionally through Q2 of 2021. The new American Rescue Plan that was just passed this month extended all the way through, I believe through 9/30. And again, and I'm laughing because I'm looking at my notes because some things are 9/30, some things are 12/31, some things are 20%, something. So really make sure you know what you're asking about and what you're thinking about and getting the right rules. So if you're looking for information on, this sick leave under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, make sure the current rules were signed into law in March. So if you're looking at an article from last December, it's probably not accurate. So always try to get that current stuff and reach out to your payroll or accounting professionals for help if you're trying to figure out how it applies.
And one of the things that you do, Julie, is you do send out regular emails with updates, with the current updates.
Yeah.
How
And
would somebody?
if somebody wants to get on our sign up sheet, there's actually a link on our Facebook page to sign up for it.
Okay.
And know that we are also updating our blog.
Oh, okay, perfect.
And that's at sparkaccountingsolutions.com. Okay. And we've got it when a new bill is passed, we're trying to get data up on the blog so people know, okay, what was in that one.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, perfect.
Yep. Perfect. So dates, and please know that more dates are probably going to change. They're talking about trying to extend the PPP application period. Right now, for this round that's open right now, for first draws and for second draws, the application deadline is 3/31. A lot of the banks have cutoff dates before that. So if you're still wanting to apply for a PPP loan, 3/31 is still the cutoff date, but you might need to apply today or tomorrow. And some of the banks have actually already stopped accepting applications because they don't have time to process the ones they have.
Okay.
So if you want it, get on it, but they're talking about changing that.
Oh,
so
goodness.
It's all in flux still.
Okay. All right. So give us just a little bit of hope for a minute.
A little bit of hope. Eventually, you will file your taxes and it will be done.
Okay.
It might need to be amended, but it'll be done.
Okay, well, and that's a good piece of hope right there. It's never going to be fatal. File when you can. If I'm wrong, correct me, but file when you can, and if it needs to be amended later, that can happen.
Yes, that is true.
Okay.
And some of the things that have changed since all of this started, the IRS has actually said, "Oh, you don't need to amend. We'll fix it for you."
Interesting.
So, as an example, one of the things that the IRS is fixing for people is there was a law passed in March that the first $10,200 of unemployment is not going to be taxable. Normally, unemployment income is taxable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people have already filed already.
Mm-hmm.
And so the IRS is going to go fix that automatically. Now,
Okay.
you may or may not want them to fix it automatically. There are some ways that in some states it might be better off like changing to a different filing status. But that's a whole nother set of issues that we won't get into today because I'm focused on the business stuff. But just
Okay,
know
let's focus on business stuff. Let's focus on the business stuff. But I do want to say, I'm just gonna say it. If the IRS changes it, can you still go back in and amend?
you should be able to.
Okay, that should be able to. All right, that's fair. That's
I'm going to go with should.
That's a safe answer. Okay,
It's an interesting year.
All right, let's skedaddle. Let's skedaddle to the next topic, shall we?
Let's do that.
Okay. So the next topic is employee retention credit.
So one of the things that we've had at the beginning of all of this, long time ago,
a whole year ago, which
we
seems
made
like
a
2
choice.
lifetimes ago.
Yes, it really feels that way. When all of this started happening and they're like, we need to get relief out to the small businesses, we all had to make a choice.
Mhm.
Did we want to take out a forgivable PPP loan, or did we want to wait and see if we qualified for the employee retention tax credit? We had to have a reduction in sales of a certain percentage. We only got 50% credit. We only got so many dollars of credit, or we got a forgivable PPP loan. And let's be honest, a forgivable PPP loan without any requirements about exactly what we need to have for sales reductions what sounded a lot sexier and a lot more helpful than an employee retention tax credit that we had to like file for somehow, and the IRS was going to give us money somehow for. And we were supposed to keep paying our employees, but we had to wait for this credit. So a lot of people pick PPP loan. So let's fast forward to December. That law said, hey, you potentially could actually take both now. You can't use the same wages to pay with the PPP loan and take the employee retention credit. But if you have these 24 weeks here that you use PPP money, and then you've got time after that you used, you're still paying your employees and you qualify for the employee retention credit, cool, you can do that. And so they originally extended that through the first 2 quarters of 2021. That has now been extended through all of 2021.
Okay.
Not to be confused with the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, which ends 9/30. This is why this is so confusing for people, is because every one of these benefits has different rules. So that has been extended, and I want to encourage people, even if you got a PPP loan, if your sales are down from 2019, it may be worthwhile to do an analysis to see if you also qualify for the employee retention tax credit. There's a lot more opportunities with that. There's more money with that. In 2021, it was a 50% credit. Now it's a 70% credit if you qualify. So if your sales are down and you're paying your people, take a look at it. Don't forget about it.
There you go.
And it's been extended through the whole year.
Well, speaking of PPP, that's next on our list.
Oh, the PPP loan. Okay, so
there's oh, okay.
We've touched on this a little bit.
All we can do is laugh right now.
Really, truthfully, that's where it's at, and I'm laughing at myself at this point because I'm just like, I'm like I'll say it might be 25%, It could be 20%. This is actually what's going on now. And so I'm having to like go back to the law and be like, okay, that's what it is. Because things have changed so many times through this. Okay, PPP. It's still out there. This started, originally back in March, April timeframe. I think April 2020. We had a short window and we called that round one PPP. Well, we didn't call it round one at that time because we thought it was the only round. So PPP. And then there were a whole bunch of people that didn't get loans that first time. And there were people giving money back because they maybe took one and they shouldn't have, or they got shamed into taking one. Whatever it was. Some people gave money back. I'm not going to judge. They know what their situation was.
Right.
And they were like, well, we need to give more people a chance to get this. So they allocated some more money and they reopened it. And we called that round two PPP. And then that went through August. And then we started all over again. And we got this new PPP 2 that we have. And so now we had to call everything something different because we had first draw PPP loans and we had second draw PPP loans. And now we're ignoring what round it is. It's just whether it's a first draw or a second draw.
Okay.
Is this confusing?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
So what you need to think about right now through March 31st, if you never took a PPP loan and you qualify, you can still do a first draw PPP.
Wow. Okay.
You can still apply for one. And they had some really favorable rules come out recently where they're letting like Schedule C taxpayers, instead of having their PPP loan calculated on net income, they're letting them calculate it on gross income, on their sales, which is a bigger number than net income, hopefully. If not, you probably need to talk to somebody about your books. But so there's some opportunities there. If you already took a first draw and you still need help, your sales are still down, you've got a reduction in sales, you may qualify for the second draw. As a reminder, these applications need to be in by March 31st. I really kind of expect that they are going to extend that deadline. But we don't have any guarantee that that's going to happen. All we know is that things are going to change. We just don't know what's going to change. So if you think you need this help, get in there, get it. This is a forgivable loan. Originally, rules were like you had to spend 75% on payroll. The new rules are that you have to spend 60% on payroll. And that includes your gross pay, that includes your unemployment taxes, that can include some of your health benefits and things like that you're paying for your employees as well. So really look at the rules on that. There's some limitations for how much you can have forgiven for employees making more than 100,000. There's some limitations on how much you can get forgiven for owner employees that are out there. So know about those things and really think through like, how much money do I qualify for? How much money do I need that I can actually justify and get forgiven? So PPP is still out there. I'm expecting a date. I'm expecting an extension. I'm not going to call it round 4. I'm not going to do it or 5 or 7. You can just get a first draw or a second draw. So
there you go. Yeah. It's going to, perfect. Who's the first person someone should contact for the PPP loan?
First thing you want to do is probably look and see if your own bank is still accepting applications.
Okay.
If they are not, there are several online lenders that are still doing it. I'm not going to recommend one over the other because one day everybody loves one and one day everybody hates them.
Fair enough.
So, there's Cross River Bank, there's Lindio, there's Blue Vine, there's all kinds of online lenders that have gotten into this space because they're really good at, like, when you think of banks, you don't usually think of them as really good at taking online loan applications and approving them. Whereas when you think of some of these other lenders that have been doing online loan applications for a long time,
right?
Those guys got into this game, which was good because it opened up options for a lot of people.
Right. Makes total sense. All right, here we go. We're barreling through this, Julie.
We are.
Okay.
So, number 4.
Yes.
We are talking about 2 industries right now that have been hit pretty hard by this pandemic as far as their ability to continue generating revenue.
Right.
A lot of places still have stuff closed down.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of places have just, volume restrictions. And if you can only put, 25% of your restaurant or 50% of your tables filled, you may not be making enough money to cover things still.
Right.
And so they've come out with these two things. The shuttered venue operator grants actually came out with the December law. This industry, this is theaters, museums, entertainment promoters,
Sure.
people that have been pretty much shut down. So these guys have been waiting for this since December, and they've just announced this week that these are going to open up I want to say April 6th.
Okay.
And this is going to be something that I think people want to be ready for. They are suggesting that people are going to need a Sam's account, and I'll put a link down in the comments when we get done with this, and also a DUNS number, which is something that you get from Dun and Bradstreet to get these, because they're actually, remember that the SBA is not normally handing out money to businesses.
Right.
Normally the SBA gives money to banks and the banks do the loans. The only time the SBA is usually giving out money for stuff like this is for like economic injury disaster loans, which is like, oh, a flood has hit this area and go help the people in this area. Now, all of a sudden, we have an economic disaster nationwide.
Right.
And so they're really scrambling to figure out how to make all these things work. So one of the ways that the government gives out money is through this SAM program. And so I will put an article from the Journal of Accountancy that kind of talks a little bit about, hey, you guys might want to get going on this stuff if you haven't already done that.
Perfect.
So that's shuttered venue operator grants. That's coming open soon. The restaurant revitalization grants is something really specific to restaurants. And this has been nice because this is one thing that will actually help restaurants that opened in 2020. A lot of these programs, if you were not in existence on February 15th of 2020, there was no help for you, which is fine, but that's not the only people that need help right now. There are other businesses that are operating that maybe didn't exist February 15th, but they still need help. And so this restaurant revitalization grants has some opportunities for that, for those people. And again, it's more money. That group may also need the SAM's login and the DUNS number. So if you think you're going to do either one of these things, it's probably worth getting those just in case, and continue to stay tuned. There's not a lot of details out about what the process is going to be for the restaurant revitalization grants yet. There's a little bit more information about the shuttered venue operator grants. Watch the SBA website on those. Look for updates, and just try to stay on top of what's coming and what's happening. And if you are in the industry, trade groups have done a really good job advocating for the shuttered venue operators and the restaurants. So if you have trade groups, get on their newsletters because they are sending out updates about what's going on with these as well.
Awesome. Okay. That sounds encouraging for a group that previously had no support.
They've had little support. They need more. And that's the hard part, is that a lot of businesses have been able to do some pivoting. But if you're a theater, like, your business is bringing people into a building, sitting next to each other within probably, well, let's be honest, some of them are like not even 6 inches, I feels like sometimes.
Right.
So, yeah,
For
I mean,
sure.
they just haven't been able to really, like, how do you pivot on that? And
Yeah.
how do you pay the rent on that building
Yeah.
during this time when you can't have anybody in it? You're looking at these things, and how do you pay the mortgage? All of these are real issues for this industry, and they didn't need help with just payroll. They needed help with some of these other costs as well that were huge. And the PPP, remember, only, originally it was 75% had to go to payroll. It's 60% now. But if 60% of that loan had to go to payroll, only 40% was left to go to rent or mortgage interest or whatever else you were paying. And you're like, well, what do I do? The economic injury disaster loans, those are usually not meant to provide a year's worth of working capital, which is what some of these businesses have needed. That's not what their intention is. It's supposed to be for a shorter term period to get through this disaster. Well, this one hasn't ended yet. So yeah, I'm glad that they've got some stuff for them.
Yes. So, so good. All right. Our last tip of the day, or must know tax COVID relief and stimulus updates, is conformity. So that's interesting. What does that mean?
This is a weird word that most people don't think of when they're thinking of accounting and taxes.
Not me.
So, in the tax world, conformity refers to, is your state taxing and doing the same things that the federal government is doing?
Hmm.
So, is your state tax code the same as the Internal Revenue Code? And I wanted to make sure I address this
Okay.
because this is another hot mess.
Yay.
It's really bad. It's really, really bad. So I'm in Idaho. So I'm just gonna give you an example from Idaho. Um, the IRS came out and said we're extending the deadline until 5/17. Our Idaho legislature had enough people with COVID that they had to shut down, and they have not passed a bill to change the Idaho due date to 5/17. So the Idaho due date is still currently 4/15. Our legislature is not due back in session until April 6th. Will they get this passed before April 15th? Who knows? Who knows if that's actually going to get done or not? And we are not alone in this. Other things being talked about. Remember originally when they passed the PPP loans, it was like, okay, this is not going to impact your taxes. Well, they wrote the law in such a way that the forgiveness of the loan was not taxable. But then the IRS came back and said, well, that's fine, but the law doesn't say this. So the expenses paid for with that are not deductible. So then they had to go back and fix that. And so the states generally either, pass a blanket conformity rule and say we're going to conform with the law as the law was written as of this date, or they accept certain sections and reject other sections. And so what's happening is some of the states have said we're going to conform as of a certain date, but what we know is that everything keeps changing all the time. And so they're not up to date. So some of the states do not have that deductibility of PPP, of expenses paid with PPP money, as a thing right now. Those are excluded. You're not be able to deduct them on your return. California is still talking about it. Idaho is still talking about it. So, and we are not alone in these states that are still talking about this and still trying to figure out what they're going to do. So, you really want to be careful about what your state rules are. Even unemployment, that's another one. They just said that 10,002 is not taxable for the feds. Is your state going to still tax it anyway?
Oh,
Maybe, maybe not. There's nothing that requires the states to have the same rules as the federal taxing
wow.
authorities. And so you have to really know and really think through what those conformity rules are for your state and how they apply and how they're going to impact you. And know that they're not done yet. They haven't figured it out yet everywhere. So patience is a virtue this
Yes.
year.
And I think a little humor at this point.
Yeah, this has gotten to the point, like, to me, this has gotten to the point of ridiculousness. It's like, you don't even know, like, all you can do is hope for the best. Like, I don't know what the tax impact is going to be. I'm going to hope for the best. I don't know what the tax deadline is going to be. I'm going to hope for the best. Extend if I have to. We'll figure it out. It'll all be fine someday in the end. But in the meantime, smile, nod, go with the flow, and try to keep up to date with things as best as you can.
Perfect. So we have a couple ways for people to stay up to date. One of them, click the Contact Us button on the Facebook page if they have a specific question for their situation.
Yes.
Another way is they can either go directly to your blog, sparkaccountingsolutions.com. It's right there on the screen.
Yep.
Right. Screenshot that. And a third way is they can sign up for your emails, because you do send out regular emails with the updates. And so there's a link on the Facebook page where you can go and say email, subscribe. What does it actually say? Do you know?
I think it says sign up.
Sign up. Okay. So look for the sign up button. All right. Perfect. Julie, as always, thank you for all this information and support. And I know that it makes your head spin, but your head spinning helps the rest of us make our head spin a little less. So thank you.
I hope so. I hope so. It's a crazy year.
It is a
Still.
crazy year, and we're all still here, so
We
yay.
are. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.